I'm feeling very nervous because I haven't done this in a while, but thank you guys for inviting me, and I will try to give my gyan wherever possible.
That's that.
Currently, I head product and growth at a D2C men's wellness brand called Forman. Prior to this, about a year back, I was sort of going through the exit of a startup which I had built over like 6 or 7 years, which was in the pet care space, along with two other guys, Siddharth and Ajit. It was called Wagger, and it originally started out as a GPS and fitness tracker for pets, evolved into a veterinary telehealth platform, and eventually like a pet e-commerce platform.
Oh wow.
And this current brand I'm working with, the founder was an investor in Wagger, and while we were going through this exit, he asked us to
Phone in right.
yeah, and basically a new learning experience.
Building brands is your forte, I would say, like with Wagger and now this D2C.
I would say I'm generally a very curious person,
Yeah.
and I like to learn. As the years go by, there's a lot more opportunities which come my way, to learn, and wherever it makes sense, I try to like grab it and see what I can learn, and then build off of that. No, I mean, it was a pretty long, interesting journey. So I did my engineering in IIT Madras, passed out in 2012 in naval architecture and ocean engineering. And the funny thing about IIT is like once you get in, you realize that hardly anybody passes out of that college and does engineering. Most of the people just end up in like finance or startups or go for their higher studies in like academia. So
I never knew why they joined. Like,
when you're 17, 18, you hardly know what you want to do in life,
what
right?
the society says.
100%. Like, you're just trained as you grow up, as you go through school, you're like, you have to study engineering, you have to go to IIT. And I was good at exams, so, managed to crack that to a degree, got into that college. So once I, finally I got placed in Flipkart, which was my first job. So I joined the Flight team. Flight was incidentally iTunes before iTunes in India. So Flipkart had an MP3 division, and it was headed by Sameer Nigam, who's the founder and CEO of PhonePe. So he was sort of technically my first boss at that time. Very interesting experience. In fact, the whole of PhonePe's current team, you can trace it back to Flipkart's Flight team. So they themselves were a startup which was acquired by Flipkart, right? So I was there for a year, then moved into marketing in Flipkart. I was leading their performance marketing team for a year and a half. And then I sort of had this, I would say most entrepreneurs at some point have this feeling of, okay, I want to build something on my own.
Right.
Calling you. I mean, I didn't have a specific calling. It was more of like a sense that, okay, there's more that I want to do, like different avenues I wanted to explore. And that sort of led to Wagger. And obviously there's context there. I mean, the biggest context was that I had lost a pet growing up. I just adopted a puppy off the streets, and I had a couple of friends who we were just jamming on like electronic hobby projects at that time. And we had no clue of business, no clue of market size, we had no clue of anything. So we went for the smallest niche in the smallest market like idiots. Yeah, I mean, but at that point, I mean, out of sheer, I would say, willpower and stubbornness and perseverance, we sort of managed to get a hardware product, which was India's first GPS and fitness tracker into market. We were supported by Qualcomm along the way. We came second in one of their Design in India challenges amongst a lot of hardware startups. They saw something in us, and eternally grateful to them for that. And we released the product in CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 2020. And just before COVID, and obviously after COVID, a lot of things went to hell. I had two co-founders at that time, Ajit and Siddharth. Ajit came from a hardware background. He was systems design engineer at Broadcom. And Siddharth, who was my, we met at college. He was living in the adjacent hostel, and we had like a progressive metal band at that time together. So, me and Ajit originally came up with this idea. Then I moved into Siddharth's house with my puppy, Siddharth also was like working on a education startup at that point, but he was looking for co-founders as well, and he liked us, and obviously I had that connect with him, so he just joined us. And obviously that team went through different iterations as we grew. In the early stages, just the three of us, meeting at somebody's house. Then as we got some funding, got some grants and all of that, the team slowly expanded. A lot more hardware folks, a little bit of UX folks, and after COVID, Ajit had to leave. It was getting tough for him. Obviously, it takes a lot of resilience and like sheer perseverance to go through. He had all that, but obviously he had a family with 2 kids also. So it was a tough call that he had to take, and me and Siddharth decided to just like stick it out. We loved the market, we loved being in that space, and we took it for 3-4 more years, but in a different sort of a approach. With e-commerce and telehealth and all that. Raised a certain amount of VCM funds, and last year we got an offer to essentially get acquired, at least the assets to get acquired from a pharma company, which has been ongoing. The due diligence is still ongoing. I don't think I'm at liberty to say the name of the company, but yeah, that's how the journey's been. My forte has always been system building. Like I really like looking at a problem and just breaking it down from the bird's eye view, but still go all the way like the micro details, right? I really like that process, and I don't think I'm a natural, I would say, marketer. Although in Flipkart I did lead the perf marketing team, but there was a lot more numbers. It's buildings, because in e-commerce, right, it's all about especially performance marketing. You have so many products, so many price points, data just keeps flowing in. How do you optimize like a crore plus marketing spend, right? I think Flipkart at that point was still very much like I wouldn't say a startup, more like a scale up. I can't comment on the culture now, obviously, after Walmart's takeover and all, but they had a very, like, I was like 22, 23 at that time, and they had a very good culture of trusting people who could do the job well, right? Like, even if they're young, it's more like if you're, good enough, you're old enough kind of approach. So that was really nice. And but as a company is growing, there's a lot of things which can break, and it's very, very tough to retain culture and retain.
With the increase in size, it gets hard to retain the quality.
100%, yeah. But I had a great time. I had really good people around me, a great boss, and always eternally grateful to that experience. And the ESOP still they have fed me when I've been hungry. So very, very grateful for that, yeah.
But to pick a piece where you said like it's really tough when you increase the scale, it's very tough to maintain the quality.
It is.
That's where we, I was just thinking that's where performance marketing really comes in. When you increase those budgets scale,
yeah,
you really have to maintain that number of the quality of the impressions that you get. But lately in 2024, 33% of the ad fraud was wasted on bots and junk traffic.
Yeah,
What's
very true.
On that?
I think this was a big problem even then, because we used to work with these partners like VServe, Comely and all, and I think one of the biggest sort of selling points at that time were like, okay, we will eliminate the bot traffic, you only have to pay for the actual traffic, but obviously you can't truly trust somebody else's internal system.
Exactly. So giving you full transparency and getting the full transparency is the key hole, I believe, to solve this whole thing around the transparency of ad tech system, where you can really see what you purchase in the programmatic, the real-time bidding, what you are. So how do you think like currently our industries tackling that?
Yeah. So at that point also, it was a big open problem statement of like the tracking of the click flow, because every company has its unique funnel, right? Both from a marketing and a product perspective. And Flipkart, in fact, at that point had invested in like a full-on team which would just look at click streams and map out these ideal flows so that the revenue attribution is correct. Like, it's not like a last touch attribution or even a first touch. It has to be like custom modeled for, but obviously it was a too intense a process. And now I think that is one area where AI will truly have an impact, especially in performance marketing. It's already having an impact, right? Which is to really help. It's AI's biggest, I would say, impact has been on personalization, right? Not just for individuals, but also for companies, right? When you look at company data, whether it's a product funnel or a marketing funnel or the linking of both, to really be able to send all that data into a system which can then tell you, hey, this is where you should be. Ultimately, for a company, it's budget allocation. Where do you spend the money so that you get the most revenue, most profit, ideally, right? And that requires a lot of personalization. See, back then, there was just a lot of clickstream data that you have to analyze, right? Like somebody coming in through a Facebook ad can come in like 3 days later on a Google ad, and then they can just come on the app, right? So most companies are very
that's still
it is a big problem, right? So most companies are very good at tracking that information, but to make sense of it, I think it needs like a pretty large data take. But now, if you have like powerful models which can pretty much replace like 10 data engineers, right? You get personalization at scale for companies.
But now to also look at the other side of this dark side of sophistication of AI.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's going to replicate the human clicks as well?
Oh yeah, that is the flip side.
That's going to cause the budget even more.
Yeah,
I would be seeing the numbers go up, but at last it will be like some bunch of bots. Okay.
Yeah, I mean you would
nice character.
You would need agents on both sides, right?
But which agents to trust is like, that's the call, at least in the end a human has to it. That's I believe like what people are thinking, like it will become easier, but analysis in the end, running big numbers is going to become easier, but analyzing those is still going to be a human job.
I
can't analyze that. That's I think.
I mean,
it can give you like what those number makes sense, but to trust those numbers is also a big thing.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, with anything regards to AI, the only thing I say is not yet. You don't know when it'll change, right? Like when that sort of line gets crossed. But yeah, hopefully we'll all have a job in a few years.
I work in sales, so I know human to human, interaction will exist. So
yeah,
I might not go anyway. Sales will be there, I guess.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, to talk about your current startup that in D2C that you mentioned,
sure.
Forman, like tell us a bit more about that. Are you working on that? What's that about?
Sure. So this company was founded a few years back by one of our investors, and they primarily focused on the men's wellness space, including but not limited to products in the sexual wellness space for people dealing with like premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, which in India is a huge category. And I think the last year and a half, there's been a lot of awareness around these topics built by brands like Bold Care. In fact, last year they had that viral ad with Johnny Sins and Ranveer, right? So that really blew up on the category. And I think the whole of last year and even before, quick commerce has really taken this category to a new height. And we expect that those tailwinds will last even for the next 12 to 18 months, right? It's funny, like I personally didn't expect to be in this space ever, but when Ian said
what's that insight for you, like which made you like start this after that? One was the investor, like was
I mean, the company was already running. We came on board to sort of relook at the visual identity, to create different distribution channels, including quick commerce, improve existing distribution channels, because a lot of optimization on Amazon and Flipkart, etc. I think the biggest thing with D2C is it's very easy to grow by burning money, but this company has been built in a sustainable fashion. So, it's not just burning a ton of bottom line. It is a lot more also about making sure channel into product is sustainable. That ultimately comes down to having a good brand, because most D2C products in India are commoditized, right? They would end up having the same supplier, same vendors, etc. Yeah, but it's all in the positioning, it's all in the brand, which helps you drive higher prices, which helps you get better margins ultimately.